minutes.
All right.
Oh, create a new broadcast or remove this destination and re-add it.
Tech is just not with us today.
No.
Oh, I don't need this.
All right, it's about to create a new destination. Tech is really not with us today.
No, that's like, man, I've been struggling with my email marketing all week, and then it just like continued not to do well. Like the actual platform itself, the worst.
Yeah. All right, we're live now. Whew! I think that just posted to all these pages, so we'll see. Y'all, tech issues. Oh, you're on live stream with Dr. Aparajita Jitagunta, who is having a massive amount of tech issues today and is so over it. However, we are here and we are present and we are going to have an amazing conversation with somebody who is just, you know, from the time I've met her to now, just becomes so special to me, just so special. Somebody I consider a friend, a confidant, an advisor, you know, a mentor in marketing and authority content marketing, and, you know, a fellow mother, a fellow person, you know, woman of color, just so many things. So it is with utmost pleasure that I invite you all to this conversation with Ruthie Bowles, the owner and founder at Defy the Status Quo Marketing, a keynote speaker of the upcoming C3EB Summit. And as I found out, her first keynote, so we're going to dig into that. And also a team member, so somebody who knows the ins and outs of this summit building roller coaster of an adventure. But before we get into all of that, let's get to know Ruthie better. Ruthie, I'm going to say hi to you because you're there, and I'm going to read your bio after. So thank you so much for taking this time and making this time to be here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me and just doing this whole thing.
Yeah, it's been amazing doing it with you. So this is Ruthies Bio in her own words. I have a passion for helping businesses express themselves through their content. My time as a military intelligence professional taught me how to find creative solutions to problems. I turned those skills to helping B2B consulting and service firms who want to creatively engage their audiences. We use their content to educate, build credibility, and client trust. I love working with companies who are looking for a content partner who excels at making them look great through stellar content in all of its forms. And I am living proof that that's true, because that's how I started working with Ruthie before we became friends. And so again, I am so excited to have you here. So let's dive right in. What drives you to do this work? You know, because I know I came to you going, I hate content, like content is not easy. Oh my God, like how do you make it look so effortless? So what drives you to do that?
So at first I thought that I just liked to write, and that's just been kind of part of my journey. I started out with like, you know what, I like writing. I'm good at writing. This is what I want to do. And what happened actually, what it turned out was that I like to create. I like to create things. And so, you know, even showing my kid that I can make an animated bouncy ball using, you know, some of the other tools that I use for like animated videos and things was just something that appealed to me. And then the strategy piece too, that's the other piece. I like to move the pieces around on the chessboard. And so in this case with content marketing, the different pieces on the board are the different types of content and your different types of channels. And so it gives me an opportunity to take my creative side, which I feel like I've always had, but to also then take this analytical side that I have that I don't feel like I was kind of naturally gifted as an analyst, but it was something that I became good at because I had to. And so it gives me an opportunity to kind of bring them together and then to do it in a more public fashion. So for nearly like 10 years, I spent a long time, not really being able to talk about my work. So it's a nice change, honestly.
Yeah. And you are obviously somebody who is incredibly, incredibly talented and gifted and good at that. And one of the things I actually really appreciate about your business and the way you run your business is you obviously have the insights. There's, no doubt about that. But you never let those kind of overpower your client's voice. Ever since I first started talking to you with the Connect Through the Disconnect workshop and beyond, it's always sort of been about my needs. And I'm going to own that I'm probably one of your clients whose needs change on a regular basis because I tend to have these like crazy ideas and I'm like, oh my God, Ruthie, what about this? And what about that? And I know that's how I came to you with the C3EB Summit and was like, Ruthie, I really want you to be a part of it.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that?
That is what happened. But
I know.
it was one of those things, right? Like you came to me with it and I was like, okay, I'm going to let this sit for like a day to make sure that she knows exactly how big she's talking right now, right? Because sometimes, like you probably remember, I think I talked to you about this whole entire business idea that was completely outside of my industry. And I talked about it for like a day and I was like, I realized that this is not my space. This is a really good idea for somebody else. So I wanted to give you like one day, right?
How'd
But
that
once
go?
that one day was passed, I was like, okay, this is what she wants to do. And I saw a lot of opportunity there. And there's tons of opportunity here. And I think one of the things that I love about it is that you're taking advantage of the timing when more people are trying to have these conversations around marginalization and diversity and equity and inclusion. But we're already talking about next year. So the conversation keeps going. So it's like a combination of timeliness with an eye for the future. And I think that's what I love the most is that people are going to be able to continue to come back and we're going to be able to build momentum moving forward with this wonderful thing in this wonderful place. And, screw the tech difficulties. We're going to make it happen.
Whew. Yeah, and those tech difficulties are going to get figured out by the time the summit goes live. You know that part. Like, I'm going to make it happen. Thank you
That's why we do stuff like this, right?
Right, I know. Thank you to Monica Molina for being here and Deshaun Andrews. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're still here. I'm just getting to the comments, so I apologize for the delay. As you've heard, we've had some technical difficulties, so I'm just finally starting to situate myself. So, normally in these live streams, which of course you suggested that I do as marketing, we have done this like sort of shorter format where we talk about what drives a person and their big why. And then we ask them to give a teaser of what they're going to talk about. Go ahead, tease us.
Okay. Well, so
and you're the only person I can say that to in the entire roster.
So, I mean, initially we were talking about me doing kind of like a marketing workshop type of thing, but we just started talking more, and then it just shifted to a keynote. And so this was really big for me when you said it. And I remember you being like, oh, you don't sound excited. And it wasn't that I wasn't excited. It was just that it was kind of overwhelming in the sense that I would have an opportunity to be really vulnerable and present the various facets of myself. And so there are people, right, who've connected with me, like say my family, who are aware of, okay, they knew how Ruthie grew up, for example, right? But they may not be aware of some of the things that occurred while I was in the military, or some of the things that have happened to me, you know, because I'm mixed, right? Like my family doesn't necessarily know all of those stories, but then like my business people, right? Like the people I've met on LinkedIn, and they're like, oh, look at Ruthie, like she looks, you know, like look at me with my big earrings and all this other stuff, you know, but they don't know like Ruthie was in the army, like for real.
Yeah.
Like deployed, was stationed at an infantry base, like for real. Right. And so there are these different pieces of me that I don't necessarily feel comfortable presenting all the way. And the reason I realize the reason why I don't feel comfortable is because I'm assuming that other people, like my full self would make other people uncomfortable. And this is the sort of thing that you talk about all of the time. And so I see it as an opportunity to provide insights, but at the same time, start to pull all of the different pieces of me together, and to do it in such a way that is very me, because I am incredibly extroverted. I'm kind of, you know, extravagant. I'm very big in the way that I do things, and I can't really think of a much better way to do it, in that it helps me. But then also what I've seen as we've had more conversations around, you know, racial tensions and things. And I've been able to use some of my stories to kind of shine light for people. Like, hey, I get it. Like you've heard these numbers quoted and these numbers quoted. And people kind of have these like automatic responses. Whenever somebody says something, they've already got a response. But like, how can you have an automatic response to what I'm telling you I actually experienced?
Yeah.
You can't. You can't. You actually have to listen now, because I'm not talking with oblique references. I am telling you that I was discriminated against. Like I am telling you that those things happen, and I'm telling you that white people did it, and I'm telling you that black people did it. And now you have to listen, because it's not, oh, well, you know, X percentage this and this many number of people that, although I've gotten really good with those numbers since writing content for the summit. But I just really, as a content person, that's always been my thing, is that we have the story and we have the data. And I think for a lot of us, especially with marginalization, we leave off the story because it makes us feel vulnerable. And that's okay, because it's part of everybody's journey. We get there when we get there. And I feel like I'm there now. I am there at this point where I am comfortable to take on some of that emotional burden in using my stories to show people the real truth behind the numbers.
Absolutely. And that's actually when I came to you and I said, I don't want you to do a workshop. I want you to be a keynote speaker. I think that's where you belong. And I think people really need to hear all of this that you put in content through your lens. That's what I was seeing was, you know, because you've always been very transparent with me, you know, regardless of, I mean, you are transparent with your other clients too, but like you said, it was facets. But I think in the nature of our work, in the course of our work, and also because, you know, I read your disc and motivators.
Right,
So,
yeah. Like, you got me. Like,
you know, so I understood things about you differently. And I'm like, there is so much more to you, you know, that it really, like, what I was picturing in my mind when I was processing this and I finally came to you was that iceberg. Like, here's this part that Ruthie shows, and here's all of this part underneath that so is like the foundation of her story and her insights. And I'm like, man, if people saw that, the foundation that it took to create these type of insights, like, I don't need to actually go in and do anything. People will automatically see the interconnectedness. So I made the gamble and I asked you, and I'm really so grateful and so honored that you yes, you didn't seem too thrilled initially, but you
it was just
agreed.
like mentally, it was just like a poof. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's huge.
I mean, I could put you on a bigger platform, but that's next.
Now
Yeah.
she tells me.
But that's okay. That's okay. One step at a time. So, we're going to be hearing a lot of Ruthie's insights because of her experiences and perspectives as a part of her keynote at the C3EB Summit from August 26th through the 28th. So please, if you haven't signed up yet, sign up, because this is definitely, somebody who knows what they're doing about authority marketing, who knows what they're doing about, putting out the right kind of stuff to build the right kind of relationships, which for all of us, as whether we're on the corporate end or the small business entrepreneurship end, when we are talking anything B2B, these are the type of relationships that we need to nurture. And these are the type of intentionally inclusive perspective, actions we can take to listen to other people's perspectives and to learn from them and to grow ourselves and to evolve. So I'm going to get off my pulpit now. That was like my academic part. I'm done. Let's get into Ruthie, the team member. This is like the more exciting part for me. So when I first came to you and I was like, Ruthie, I need you to help me with this. I have this crazy idea and we're going to make it happen in less than 12 weeks.
Yeah. That was big. I was like so relieved when I was able to be a partner, because there were so many things that I wanted to do. And it was just so much easier to do it that way. Especially like I'm really loving the like long form content, the foundation that we're building. And because of all the research and opportunities that I've had to learn and speak with some of the speakers, I'm already planning out future ones that will connect to the foundation that we're building here. And it'll be something, I think, that the blog for the summit will actually be able to kind of be an ongoing type of information stream for people, and to continue to be a platform for speakers, going into the future. But the things that I've learned, the realizations that I've had just working on the content have been amazing. And like I tell people this all the time, but working with you and going to your webinars and everything, it's made me a more inclusion educated person. I've been able to have conversations. That's my favorite part, is that I'm able to have conversations and use words that get people to listen instead of like stepping on their toes on accident. Like, you get people riled up, and sometimes I get people riled up on purpose. I'm not going to lie, but sometimes I don't mean to. And when that happens, when I accidentally make people feel a particular way, then it distracts from what it is that I'm trying to say, and they're more focused on how I say it. So since I've been paying attention to you and watching your live streams, listening to your podcasts, and being at your webinars and working on your content, I've come up with so many new ways to present these ideas that introduce pauses for people versus allowing them to continue on their automatic responses that they've been giving to everybody on Facebook,
Yeah.
So I think that was the big opportunity for me, is that it was an opportunity to blend what I do as a professional and something that I care about very much as a non-professional, as just my regular self. It is something I'm very passionate about, just because I'm at the intersection for a lot of different groups and marginalized communities. And I look at my kids and I see the same thing. And I mean, in a way for them, I think it might be harder since some of them are lighter. And I've already struggled with not being enough. So I can only imagine how it's going to work out for them. But yeah, it was just an opportunity to bring together the professional and the personal passions, and I've been loving it. So yeah, more DE and I opportunities. Like, I'm like all about it. So
yeah. And for anybody listening in, if you have questions for Ruthie or me, about Ruthie's experience, about what it actually took to build a summit in 12 weeks, which, Ruthie has been a part of it since day one. Please just drop it in the chat and we will make sure to answer your questions. You know what, Ruthie, let's make it open. Let's reverse the roles. What questions do you have for me?
Okay.
Like, what has been something that you've not asked me in the course of this that you're like, WTF, I need to know?
Okay, so we're almost there,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're almost there. We're going into a sprint now. So what I'm wondering, right? So when this idea popped into your head, I think these ideas, they're always beautiful and gorgeous and bright and shiny right when you have them. And then you get down into the mud with them and roll around and stuff. So I'm wondering, looking back, if there's anything that you would do differently now, because I feel like, there's probably, sorry.
Do you see the comments?
Yeah, AJ's in Michigan and I'm actually in Maryland, but neither of us are from where we live. AJ?
I'm from India.
Right? She's not even from this whole side of the world. And I'm actually from California / Pennsylvania. We moved there when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So, and then, so here we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm wondering what you would do differently, if anything. I mean, I feel like we've probably already got some lessons learned, but you as it's your baby. So I'm wondering what you're observing now with how far you've come. It feels like we've gone 6 months through this already. So what would you change?
I think, for me, it just so happened that my passion with this idea aligned with my purpose. And I think in that I got extremely lucky that it aligns so beautifully. But at the same time, you also knew that this was something that in so many different versions has been a pipe dream. So when you ask me about what I would do differently, I've already gone through all of those iterations in my head for the past 2 years. And what we're seeing now is what has evolved from all of those dreams and all of those visualizations. That being said, a couple of the things that I wasn't anticipating, and I couldn't have anticipated, which I learned tremendously from, is that there was a lot of pushback to me and you've heard all of my grief stories about that because this is an inaugural one. Who am I? Really, who am I? Why should anybody, pay attention? Why should anybody listen? Why should anybody participate? And this is not coming from the speakers. This is coming from sort of the general public. One thing that I would do differently had I had to do all of this over again, which isn't hindsight great, but I would not pay attention to that. I would know that I was standing in my truth and walking the walk, and I would believe, I would not let that sort of, it didn't erase my belief in the idea, but it did erode it at parts in there where I was like, oh my God, is this going to happen? Can we make this happen? Is this actually and I think there was even a couple of points where you and I talked about, do we need to postpone this? But I really don't want to, and all of that. So I think a large part of that was me listening to these voices that just because they didn't know my quote unquote agenda or who I was or where I was coming from or all of these other things, I let them sort of delude me into thinking this was about me, because this entire summit is not about me. This entire summit is about the 48 voices who have the lived experiences. This entire summit is about highlighting BIPOC and LGBTQIA+ and people with visible and invisible disabilities who may or may not have been veterans, who may or may not have all of these other intersectionalities, to bring forth this idea that our lives are just so interconnected and our realities, our experiences are so interconnected. We can't put them in silos. We have to take the whole system as a whole and look at it. So I think
there's actually one thing I wanted to talk about, and we didn't talk about this before, but you were talking, I was like, no, we need to talk about this. People should hear it. But when you put on something like this, like you said 48, like it's almost 50 speakers, right? Like we have a ton of people from a ton of different walks of life involved. And then I already talked about the timeliness of the summit. And I just want to throw it out there. Like you've opened up the crowdfunding option here because we've got all these big companies. And I hope whoever's listening now and whoever is going to listen later, we've got all these big companies talking Black Lives Matter and Pride Month and all this other stuff. And the people that you've had the opportunity to even talk to are kind of like, well, we don't get it. Like, and I'm talking sponsors, like they're like, but yeah, I don't know. So like they're, all willing to post their little black square or make their profile logo pictures for their company's rainbow. But when it comes time to actually show support, right? To show support, they don't. So like, I know that there are companies out there doing good things, but I know you've talked to many many. Again, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus right now, but you've talked to many, and it makes me pretty upset that people aren't just like, oh yeah, like, yeah, totally good. I mean, and again, I've told you this, but purely from a marketing perspective, like even if I didn't feel passionate about it one way or another, from a marketing perspective, if somebody had asked the marketing department, I'm sure somebody would have said, that's good optics. We should probably do that to go with our little black square. I don't know.
She actually did say about 2 of the companies who came back to me with some interesting comments. She was like, oh, they didn't involve their marketing departments.
That's like, because
no marketing person would have let this go.
No, like as a marketing person, if they had talked to their communications people or their PR people, they'd have been like, no, we definitely should do this. This is a great opportunity. Who are your speakers? Like, what are the opportunities? Like, as a marketing person, it's like, yeah, this is your platform. But if we're involved as a bigger company, how much bigger can we make this for everyone? And I'm just completely baffled by the lack of good business thinking. Baffled. I don't understand. Like I could totally make that TikTok video right now.
You should. And I have an insight there for you.
Okay.
It's because most of these companies, especially the ones that you and I spoke about these, they talk the talk like you were talking, right? But they're, in so many ways, I can't even fault them, because they're like that toddler who's just learning how to stand up and see if they can walk, but they're not entirely sure. But they're not toddlers, they're grown adults. That's the only thing. So it's just this interesting juxtaposition of historically, we've not walked the walk. Historically, I mean, even until this year, Black Lives Matter started in 2014, has just been lip service. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Historically, had anybody actually walked the walk, we wouldn't be here. So what's really happening is that people are continuing to just prescribe to their outdated systems because they're comfortable in them and because of the uncertainty of stepping out of that. Do I begrudge them for that? Absolutely not. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. Do I also sort of chuckle and challenge? Absolutely, because we know that, there's two things that are truthful about this. One, growth always entails discomfort, and discomfort entails growth.
kind of begrudge them it a little bit. Like I mean, just a little bit.
I know.
Because I get it. Like they don't know. But there was I think I learned this from one of my high school teachers, I think in government perhaps. But they taught us that your rights only extend so far as they start infringing upon the rights of others. So if your comfort is dependent upon other people's discomfort, right? Like as an adult, you've allowed yourself to be blinded by it. So like for me, like I was raised, we weren't like uber Christian, right? But that is how I was raised. I went to church and that's how it was. But once I got out of the house and I grew up and started having different experiences, the glasses came off. And I realized that wasn't who I was. That wasn't the path I was meant to walk. And there were a lot of things and there were a lot of assumptions I made based off of being raised that way, that even at the time that they were telling me that that was the way that it was and that was how things were supposed to be, I still wasn't completely comfortable with it. But as a child, you take it, right? But as an adult, it came off. And I mean, the Army did expose me to a lot of different things. But the average American, the average person stays within what they know, and they associate with people who look and sound and think like them. And you see those echo chambers in Facebook all of the time. I really like being a discordant chord within those echo chambers. I do it all the time.
Me too. You know, that actually reminds me of something that one of our latest speakers, who is an amazing person. I don't want to give too much away. This is the one that I sent you the bio for. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Right. And so they and I were having a conversation, and they actually said something which blew my mind. They said, you know, AJ, as marginalized people, we've actually gone through the journey. We've actually gotten the awakening. We're there. We've done more work than the people that we are asking to support us now. So really, it's not about them supporting us. It's about us supporting them as they learn about us. Now, that support doesn't mean we have to carry them. They still get to walk the walk with us. But as long as they walk the walk, then maybe we have to open our mind to saying, this is my reality, and standing strong in it, and not letting their perspectives change our narratives. Because a lot of the times these narratives get changed because we don't speak up.
Yeah. Well, they make different assumptions, or the lack of us speaking up reaffirms whatever it is that they already thought. It's just, again, that's a hard reality, I think, for a lot of us, because it goes back to, well, we shouldn't have to, but the reality is that we do.
Yeah.
That we do. And then, of course, the hope is that we speak up now, and then our children, it will be less of a consideration for them. I don't think it'll be completely gone, right? But it'll be less of a consideration, because you said it's like 2050, we're going to be minority majority in the United States, right? So it'll be less of a consideration then, but probably still something that comes up.
And I'm sure they'll have their own issues at that point, because they're all human too. And I'm sure they're going to find something petty to fight about, because that's what we are.
I don't know. Hopefully it'll be something else.
Hopefully it'll be something else if we did something right. You know, and you brought up one really, really important point, is that because of all of this, what I call is that we're just ahead of our curve. We did open up the crowdfunding option because, so believe it or not, like, we are actually very close to our budget. We just need that last little bit of help for us to get over that hump and put the best thing forward for this summit, but also build it up to the future. Because so we already have a 1-day quarterly Q4 mini summit, mini C3EB, with 3 of the tracks for Q1. 3 of the other tracks for Q2, and Q4, Q1, and Q2. So all 9 tracks are going to get broken up into 3 tracks quarterly. We already have speakers completely lined up until Q2, and then we're going right back into this in Q3 next year. That's how much this has grown. Yeah,
I was 8 years old when I learned all that.
Yeah. I didn't want to scare you. So when you keep talking about the future and I'm like, I'm like, yeah, it's already there. It's happening. So this movement is turning out to be larger than the both of us, or even the 48 of us.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
well, I mean, so that's just people, I think. That's just people speaking on it. And, you know, these companies, they'll have to catch up or, you know, get left in the dust. But I tell you what, I am definitely not going to forget some of the ridiculousness. All right.
Yeah. And, you know, low key, you know, tongue in cheek, I have said, okay, yeah, come back in 5 years and I'll charge you $250,000. But no, that all jokes aside, like, for people that do want to sponsor us, we still have sponsorships open all the way from like 3,000 to like several thousand, or 300 to several thousand. And we do have the crowdfunding option, which people can, any amount counts. All you have to do is go to www.c3eb.com, register, and then the next page it takes you to is, you know, would you like to donate to this cause? I've actually had a few people donate $1, and I've had, you know, people donating just in my network when I was actually testing out the system, donate more. So anything that you can help us with is going to allow us to continue this programming and continue building the C3EB diverse expert and talent database that came out of this entire thing. Oh my gosh. So when I told you that, what did you think of it?
I was like, oh my goodness, this woman's a glutton for punishment. Glutton for punishment. Again, not because it's a bad idea, but I'm just like, didn't we just have a 20-minute conversation about all the other stuff that you need to do? Pretty sure we did. And then you're like, oh yeah, I had another great idea. And I'm like, AJ's good idea fairy's on drugs. Or she had too many cups of coffee. It's one of those.
You know what? If I ever meet that fairy, she's flitting around way too fast. But if I ever slow her down enough, I'll ask her.
Yeah, I don't know what she's on, but she probably slips onto the kids.
Yeah, probably.
That's how they were this evening.
Yeah, no. But again, at the same time, for me, this database. So for those of you who are curious, this is the link for it, whether you're tuning in live or later. In the middle of all of this stuff, I decided what I was getting a lot of, the reasons for why people weren't willing to walk this walk with us. There were 2 reasons, really. One was, oh, you know, given everything that's happened, we just don't have enough, you know, we can't afford to invest in DEI during these unprecedented times. And it was like, I don't know how to tell you that this is exactly when your people need to belong. This is exactly when your employees need to feel secure. They need to feel heard. They need to feel seen. They need to feel like their needs are getting met where they are, without them having to bend over backwards to fit your boxes. Which, by the way, the boxes don't make sense, but we won't even go there. That's a different topic. But then the second thing I was getting was, I don't even know if DEI makes sense in all of this, because really it's not a diversity and equity and inclusion problem. There really is a shortage of diverse talent. And I'm sitting here like,
Well, and then the other thing though, right? And again, this is something that I've learned as I've done all like the content for the summit. So more than 50% of people, LGBTQIA+ people, are in the closet at work. So you could have a whole bushel of diversity that doesn't feel comfortable being open about it. And then you've got, you know, anybody of color who probably code switches at work, right? Again, so another bushel of diversity that you think you see, but you actually don't. Like, you legitimately don't see it because we try so hard to blend in with everyone else. So, like, for years, I used to flat iron my hair. For years, flat ironed it because it fit better. Oh, yeah. So Deshaun wants to talk a little bit more about this magical shortage of diverse talent, it looks like.
Yeah, Deshaun, you and me both. Like, all three of us, actually. Your emoji was my exact response on a Zoom call when I heard it. I could not even control myself. I face palmed, and then I was like, did I just do that? And the entire non-diverse panel I was talking to were like, yeah, you just did.
That's hilarious. So I just made a TikTok video that's basically that. It was like when you call your client stupid and you didn't mean to. I cannot wait till it comes out. I'm going to tag you in it.
I did not even realize. I face palmed till I was like, oh, wait, did I just face palm? And they were like, yep. And I'm like, well, I don't think I can convey my thoughts any better.
Yeah.
So current leadership does think there is a shortage of diverse talent, and you know, this is something that Ruthie, you and I spoke about when I was a guest on your podcast about how data, and you alluded this to this earlier about data versus story, how data has, like, people handling data just really have this like incredible responsibility to represent the right story, and how what we're doing with data right now doesn't actually do justice to that, and how it minimizes or makes invisible, renders invisible very critical parts of people's stories. You know, this is why, as you were saying, 50% of the LGBTQIA community hides themselves. 61% of the entire civilian workforce hides essential aspects of themselves that could be contributing to the engagement and talent pool. But they just, one, don't feel safe to not be judged or acted against, actually discriminated against negatively, or two, that they're going to be seen as combative for voicing their opinions and their concerns.
Well, it's like the COO at Pinterest, and they forced her out. I sent you that article just the other day. I read it. I couldn't believe it. And I mean, I could, but I was still kind of astonished a little bit. And they shoved her out, but it engenders a lot of distrust. And I'm thinking specifically of a time I experienced between myself and two other same ranking non-commissioned officers. We were all staff sergeants, and they were having a conversation that I was privy to. And just as I was about to speak up, and I'm not going to give it away because I'm actually going to tell this story during my keynote, but just as I was about to speak up, they said something that showed me that that part of me was not welcome here. And the me now would have dropped that bomb anyway and realized that it was their discomfort. It was their shame that they needed to experience, not mine. But at that time, I wasn't at that point in my journey, because all I felt was even just my own shame, because I realized that it was just that part of me was not safe there. But yeah, so and so those two particular NCOs, while we still worked together, they had no idea what they had done, but I never trusted them the same after that.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's an egregious breach of trust, because I'm not going to say anything more because I'm going to give things away from your talk. Every time I think about this particular story of yours, it just makes my blood boil, because it shouldn't have happened to you. And it did. And not only did it happen, it was considered the norm. And you somehow had to pick up the pieces from that when it should have been the polar opposite.
Well, that is one of the aspects of my story that I hope helps other people, even if they're not ready or they're not at that point or they don't feel like that is part of their purpose. But even just hearing it gives them something,
Yeah.
and so that is definitely my goal.
Yeah, yeah. And these are the, types of stories that we're going to focus on in the diverse expert and talent database, because this is a database which doesn't focus on your resume. It doesn't focus on who you're supposed to be. It doesn't focus on who you're expected to be. It focuses on you owning you, and you talking about your growth mindset, your aptitude, your core competencies, your drive, and why. Of course, it's not even a non-secret. Like, core competencies matter more than technical skills. So why is a resume still the first gatekeeper? Why? What
Man, I
does a
hate
resume
sending my
tell you
resume.
about leadership or aptitude? What does a resume tell you about anybody's experience?
I hate sending my resume.
I went off on a mini rant there. I'm back. But that R word is like such a trigger word for me. Which is why the diverse expert and talent database, we don't use the R word. It's a bad word, y'all. On this database, your resume is a bad word. Not that we're not going to give you the chance to highlight it. You get to put your LinkedIn profile and like all of this other technical information, but it's not it doesn't nobody's resume has ever told me anything about them. It's me hearing from them about their story. It's me hearing from them about what drives them. It's me hearing from them about their big whys in life. And that's how I've always, maybe I'm just being like idealistic or naive, but that's how that's how I ended up saying, I need you to work with me. That's how every single team member, including Tamar, who is our amazing graphic designer, Tamar Nicole, Creative Designs by Tamar.
The logo and a lot of the social media graphics and stuff. So if you love that stuff, like, she's an amazing. I've already referred her once. She's an amazing designer.
She is so amazing, and she is so quick, and she is so reasonable. And again, she really listens to you. And this is why I picked her too. I listened to her. She listened to like what I wanted to convey. I didn't give her any of these ideas that she came up with. And she came up with these ideas in like 48 hours. And I was like, remember I sent you like those first drafts, and I'm like, can I pick all 5? And you were like, you need 1, AJ, 1. Like, but all 5 are great. We might use them in the future. We'll see. I haven't given up on them. But so Tamar's one of them, and then Tisha and the web team. Same story. I gave them, like, I learned about them, not about their resume. And
yeah, Tisha and the web team, that's Essential IT, right?
Yeah, that's Essential IT, and they are, again, critical parts of the summit, and they're going to be the ones like running everything backstage, even live. So we need to. I'll figure it all out. All the tech difficulties will get figured out. But all of these people, every single person I've ever had a connection with has been because who they are as a person showed me more about their work ethic than that piece of paper that they sent to me.
When I think a lot of the people in my business network, right? A lot of them who are entrepreneurs in part, right? Like, it may not be like the main driving force, but one of the perks of being a business owner or being self-employed is that you build the culture. It's your environment, and who you let in is who you let in. And so you can be your full self. You can show up how you're comfortable showing up. And like I said, I don't know if like it wouldn't necessarily be a huge force, but I know that I felt capped. I felt like I wasn't able to do everything that I had the potential to do. And so I was like, you know what? I'm out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but I was good at my job. I was really good at my job. And before that started happening, I thought I was going to do that. That was going to be it. Like that was going to be me. I was going to be this translator and I was going to do it better than almost anybody I could probably run into next to a native speaker.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And so for them to affect me in such a way that they changed that I changed it because of what they did, that was really huge for me. I spent 10 years doing that work.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, granted, hopefully my life will be much longer, but I really did think I was going to retire doing that work. I thought I was going to be in the intelligence community forever.
Now I started tearing up because, as you know, I'm dealing with that on my end with one of my situations right now where it's literally exactly what you said. And so that I was just like, oh God, yeah, that hits hard. But yeah, as an entrepreneur, you do get to dictate your space and you do get to actually be an agent for change and make these things happen, which is, why this diverse expert database is for entrepreneurs and for job seekers. And what is it? Until September 1st, for job seekers, it's free to create a profile. And there is a very, very steep discount on a full year subscription for anybody who is an entrepreneur or a small business owner who is sick and tired of these boxes we're getting put into, because we're not going to focus on your resume. We are going to market you, the person, and we're going to tie it into our future C3EB Summits, which Ruthie just found out about. That was awesome.
First heard, me, you, everybody here watching, comments, first heard.
Oh yeah, our December summit, the full speaker roster is already done. February is like 90% full. We have like 4 spots for May left.
It's gonna be amazing.
I didn't reach out to these people. I'm blessed that at least among the speaker community, what we are accomplishing together as partners is resonating enough with the people doing the work that they are reaching out to me saying, this is important. How can we contribute?
Yeah.
So those doing the work are realizing it. Now it's up to all of us, really, to wake up.
Yeah. You know what I want to see? I mean, post-COVID, I want to see like an in-person, give me a reason to travel event. Be so exciting.
I'm going to make you move to Michigan.
No. Mm-mm.
There's going to be so many events out here where you're speaking that you're going to be like, it doesn't even make sense.
I can't permanently live somewhere where they could film the live action Frozen.
That's just cold. Ha!
Yeah, so is Michigan. Michigan be cold.
I had to. That was such a corny joke.
Look, I'm pretty sure Maryland's about as far north as I want to be. And then y'all are even like, I mean, I know you got the lakes and stuff, but you're also more
Our basement's really nice and warm. So, and it's got a full apartment. So there you go.
You just want me up there for my goats.
Then there's that.
And then your daughter's going to run away with my daughter.
Probably. And the rest of the 3 kids.
Right. She's going to turn them into her minions.
I think they're all minions. They just, every one of them thinks they're not, but they're all minions trying to lead each other. And that's what makes it hilarious.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So pretty much this is how our conversations go. There might be more cursing, maybe.
Oh, a lot more. as soon as I'm on camera, like my filters just go on.
Yeah, it's like my kid filter.
Yeah.
It's very similar
Yeah.
filter.
Yeah.
But this is pretty much how our conversations go.
Yeah.
So we've had to call less during the workday because we just talk about everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, if that were the case here, we'd be on this for the next 8 hours. So I don't think that's conducive to you or, you know, these black circles that are happening under my eyes. But
Gotta get
which
some
I blame it on the lighting. It's actually not me. My eyelashes are just so long that they cause shadows.
I like it.
Yeah. Isn't that a great reason? We're going to go with that.
It is.
I know. But so what is your final like takeaway? What should we end on? You tell me, partner.
You know, I think if you're looking for a way to support right now, the very easiest way to do that is to go to the website that's here on the screen and register. You can register for free. And we have 9 different tracks. So there is something there for everyone. AJ and I are both, you know, we have our own businesses. So we do talk about that quite a bit. But that isn't the sole, like that isn't the focus of the summit. We've got a ton of different tracks: tech and data, health and wellness, corporate and leadership, DE&I, government and civics engagement, education, social or societal and cultural equity. We've got so much happening here.
Environmental justice.
Yes.
And small business.
And there's just so much here for everyone.
Yeah.
So that is the absolute easiest way that you could support, is by going to the website, super short URL, and registering. And then beyond that, sharing, inviting, donating if you can for the crowdfunding. But the very first step is to register for the summit. And these stories will be something that you'll be able to be a part of as they're told. You know, as these I mean, for me, in my case, this will be the first time that I'm presenting these particular sets of truths together in the way that I am planning. So this is the very first time that this is coming out exactly this way. And so, like I said, I plan on leaving it all out there, you know, just cracking myself wide open and being out there in the hopes that if even one person is not to change your mind, but or anything like that. But if even one person can be like, I do know somebody that XYZ.
Yeah.
Ruthie, because she told me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I'm just so honored that you're walking this with me. And it's interesting that you brought up that this is going to be your first time, because first of all, you're such a natural at it. And you do it in such a simple and profound way when you tell your story that it doesn't feel sort of curated at all. It feels very organic. But at this, and you know, so there's that. And then there's the evil side of me that's like, ha ha ha, I get to pop this cherry. Because, no, because July 27, 2019 is when the first time I told my story, that Spark Talk. And so this is just about 13 months later.
Yeah.
So in so many ways, if I hadn't told my story there, I wouldn't have gone on this journey. And now you're telling your story. And because of you, who knows how many more will be able to tell their story. And that really is why I started the summit. So that just warms my heart.
All right, so go register, and once you do, you'll be up to date. We'll be, you know, communicating with you and giving you all the updates, and we cannot wait to kick this off, and all the amazing speakers and the stories and truths that they will share with you. So it'll be an amazing opportunity for learning and connecting and understanding. That is the type of space that we're building. And that's the type of space that you will enter into every single day of the summit. Learning, understanding, that's what we're going for.
No judgment. Yep. All right, y'all. Thank you for everybody that's joined us live, and for everybody who's going to be watching this long Q&A session later. I'm probably going to take some snippets of it and do some stuff and then send it to Ruthie and be like, hey, I'm going to post this, and without waiting for her post it anyway. So we'll see what happens, but thank you all for joining us. And Deshawn, thank you so much for being here this entire time. Like, oh my gosh.
You.
I know you're Ruthie's family, but I love you. I absolutely love you. And thank you for joining and listening to our story and listening to this amazing partnership that's been built and the impact that it's going to have. So register, y'all, and we'll be back soon.